Hey guys, welcome to this video on transits to the nodes in astrology. I'm Cassandra the Saffron Sage, helping you use astrology to evolve. And today we're talking about transits to the nodes. So when the planets in the sky pass over your north and south node, that is what we're talking about in this video. We're going over the conjunctions based on transits. So your natal chart, is like that snapshot of the sky, and then the transiting planets go around that snapshot. And when they conjunct your north node or south node, that's what we're talking about in this video. So in general, the north node represents increase and the south node represents decrease. The north node is considered more positive in astrology. The south node is considered more negative, more destructive. That doesn't mean we can't use it for good, but just that its influence is usually more of a decrease, a disappearance, a lessening, and with the north node, it's more of an increase. Planets that pass the north node tend to reorient us toward our purpose. So when a planet passes over your south node, it can actually kind of activate some of your challenges when it comes to your south node past life patterns. Sometimes those things can come up a little bit more. It can also be that the thing that is represented by that planet can disappear from your life for a little while. This doesn't have to be serious, but it can be more serious where that person represented by that planet is removed in some way. If you don't know your north node by sign and house, I have videos on that you can watch so that you understand better how to apply these transits to your personal north and south node. And if you need more support with this, you can book a private reading and we can look at that. We can look at your transits to your nodes and any other powerful chapters of life that are closing or beginning for you based on your chart. So the planets that are going to make the biggest difference, you guys, are the slowest planets. In astrology, the more often something happens, the less life-changing it is considered to be. So we have some really light, easy planets that are going to pass over our north and south node all the time. So the first one is going to be the moon. The moon is going to pass over these points every 28 days. This is not a big deal. It's not really worth paying that much attention to. It could possibly make you just feel a little bit more aligned with your purpose when the moon is passing over it. And if you're not in alignment with your north node, it could actually bring up feelings of insecurity because our north node is our energetic comfort zone. And then when the moon is passing over your south node, you might just not feel as lovey-dovey, or you could be more in tune emotionally with some of your south node patterns at that time. But these transits are hours, not days, and usually they happen when we don't even notice. I would say transiting planets like the moon, Mercury, and Venus, we might not feel those ever unless something else is happening in our chart at the same time, and then that energy could be considered. So I'm going to go over those ones pretty quickly because they're not as life-changing. They're not going to make as much impact on us. So first, the sun is going to shine a spotlight on whatever it touches. So that time of year when the sun goes over your north node, you might be more aware of your purpose. You might see more clearly where you need to jump out of your comfort zone, or you might be just more concerned about your next steps in life, and you might feel like those are really illuminated. This would be a more positively felt transit most likely, and it's going to last a few days. And then when the sun is conjunct your south node, then in some cases, the energy of the sun in your life might disappear. So this is a time where someone might feel less optimistic, or their father figure or authority might not be present for a few days. Those would be possible ways this could show up. Another way is the sun could shine a spotlight on some of your past life south node patterns, and how that's going to show up in your life really depends on how sucked into your south node you are, how aware you are that it's happening, that kind of stuff. But this transit's about 3 days, not a super big deal. So moving on now to Mercury. When Mercury is conjunct your north node, you might feel like you want to plan your purpose because Mercury is how we communicate. You might talk to more people about your purpose. You might be more concerned about it. It might just take a bigger role in your life, especially when it comes to writing or speaking. If that is part of it, you might be doing writing or speaking to further the agenda of the North Node in your life based on whatever sign and house it's in. If Mercury is conjunct your south node, you may have a hard time at this time planning or figuring out what to do with your purpose. You might feel a little bit lost without that influence of Mercury that kind of structures a little bit. It's possible you could be journaling and talking about your south node patterns at this time, just depending on how this transit affects you. This is going to happen once every year, each point for a few days. So Venus is the third one that is going to pass quickly and not make a huge impact. And that is going to be Venus conjunct your north node. You might be assessing your values in life. With Venus conjunct your north node, you might have more energy directed toward your values in life. You might really feel like you just want to move toward your north node in a really enjoyable way. And you could also be socializing more at this time. When Venus is conjunct your south node, you might not be feeling the feels as far as going towards your purpose. You might want to isolate a little bit more. And in a very extreme case, love can leave your life at this time. Mars conjunct your north node. This is going to happen every 2 years for up to a week or two. And Mars conjunct the north node, you might feel really urgently like you need to figure your life out and do something. You might really want to push hard to make something happen, get on track if you're not on track. For some people, this could be an outside force doing it, but usually it's going to be your own internal motivation. You will probably feel more motivated to move toward your purpose at this time, and it is great in this case to work with this energy to get things going because you have more ability to make action as long as you're focused on what you want to accomplish. With Mars conjunct your south node, again, this is going to happen every 2 years for about a week or two. This might be a more challenging aspect. If you push too hard, you could actually go in the opposite direction of your purpose. You could end up kind of forcing a little too much, or for some people, their willpower can just disappear during this time. So if that does happen for you, just know it's only a week or two, so it's not really the end of the world and it's going to pass. So now we move on to the major players here. So the first major player is going to be Jupiter. So when Jupiter transits your north node, this transit is going to happen once every 12 years. So you can already see it's going to be more significant. If Jupiter is conjunct your north node, this can be a time where you're very enthusiastic, excited, you have tons of energy to make things happen, really clarify or work toward your direction in life. And this transit happens once every 12 years for about 6 weeks, but with the outer planets it depends because oftentimes when Jupiter goes retrograde, it's going to pass over it again and then it'll come back again. And so this is something we can look at in a reading when it's going to pass that point. If you know how to look this up yourself, you can see those times where it'll infuse its energy into your north node and then it'll come back. There might be some reassessing and then it'll go back over it again. So this will happen with all the outer planets. So when Jupiter conjuncts your north node, you're usually more active, more excited about your purpose. You have more optimism about your direction in life. You could also find that your purpose in life is infused by Jupiterian themes such as philosophy, spirituality, travel, long distance travel, and expansion in all forms. This is a time where you might really want to grow far fast, and you're able to, but the only thing to watch out for with a Jupiter transit like this is that you don't take on, you don't bite off more than you can chew. Sometimes the downfall of Jupiter is it doesn't know when to quit and it doesn't have limits. So when you're coming into any Jupiter transit, it's okay to go with that energy and allow it to expand your life. But it's really helpful if you also fold in or layer in structures or put limits on your time and your energy so you don't end up trying to be all things to all people. When Jupiter is conjunct the south node, we can see it's almost like an increase of decrease. So this can be a more challenging transit because whatever your south node patterns are based on your north node sign and house could be expanded. So that looks like more challenges, more patterns to overcome. Occasionally, this can expand your south node gifts, but you have to really watch that you're using them in a way that honors your north node. Sometimes something Jupiterian in your life can disappear during this transit. So that would be like a teacher, a philosophy you learned, things related to philosophy, teaching, the law, spirituality, belief systems, higher knowledge, foreign travel, things like this can be somehow removed or disappear from your life for that transit. This is a time you really have to watch out you're not accidentally running yourself into the ground by diving headfirst into the activities of your South Node and going straight into that energetic black hole. And you can find out what that is based on the sign and house of your North and South Node. If you have Saturn conjunct your North Node, this transit happens once every 28 years and the full range lasts for about 2 months. You may not feel the energy 1000% during the whole 2 months. It's going to be more acute when Saturn is closest to your North Node and sort of fizzle out a little as it comes into that and comes out of it. But the energies you might experience during this transit, sometimes people will have delays, blocks, or obstacles to their purpose. However, the beauty of a Saturn transit is that it can also help you become more disciplined. So if things are not working during this transit for you, it's a time to kind of go back and see how to restructure, how to be more responsible, how to set yourself up if you haven't for long-term growth. So this is a time where it's like slow growth is good growth. For new projects related to your purpose, you might be putting structures in place, you might be getting the groundwork, and to work with this transit, all you have to do is have the patience and the discipline, like make sure each step of the path is solid before moving on to the next step, making sure that whatever you're putting out into the world, whatever you're working on, you are doing it in a disciplined way for long-term results. This is not a time you'll be able to cut corners or get rich quick, but you could develop a plan, that requires hard work and discipline, and that could actually be really successful at this time, or at least you could start something that becomes successful at this time if you tap into and use those qualities. If you have somehow been cutting corners or avoided learning certain lessons up until now, when Saturn hits that North Node, you could have to deal with that. This is a really good time to look at your limitations, confront them square on, and fix them or resolve them one at a time. That is what this energy can be best used for. If you have Saturn conjunct your South Node, this could be a time where you do not feel disciplined and you just don't want to do anything. This transit lasts 2 months, so it's a time where you might really have to force yourself to step up and be disciplined and, have those responsible qualities. Another way this could show up is someone who represents Saturn in your life, like a boss or a disciplinarian, possibly a father or father figure in the sense of the person who disciplined you could leave your life during this time. And that doesn't always mean death. That could just mean like your boss goes on a vacation and you don't have structure. Now, whether that's going to be subjectively positive or negative depends on who you are and, again, how it shows up in your chart. But things that are typically Saturn-like, structure, rules, discipline, speed limits in general can somehow be decreased at this time. Another way this could show up is you could feel a lot less optimistic about your future. You could feel really nihilistic whenever Saturn hits a major point in your chart. But the South Node being such a challenging point, having Saturn here could just bring that, Saturnian seriousness to a whole new level. Another way this could show up is you could actually get sick of your own shit and want to do something about it, because Saturn is the limiter and your South Node represents the patterns that kind of keep you stuck. So this is a great time. The best way to use Saturn conjunct South Node is to find a way to discipline yourself against those patterns that keep you stuck. You could find yourself or something outside of you causing you to have to face the music in some way. However, oftentimes with Saturn, what we feel like is a punishment, if we choose to grow and mature through the process, in the end, we will look back and see it as a positive thing. That doesn't mean it always feels good. The more mature you are in life, the less Saturn can do to you. Basically, the more mature you are, the more you naturally accept personal responsibility, the less Saturn can hurt you. And Uranus. So when Uranus is conjunct your North Node, this transit can last up to 5 months, although the moment that it is conjunct could be more of a single event. Well, Uranus is an outer planet, so outer planets tend to kind of slowly move toward that point, come to a crescendo, and then slowly move past it. That's usually our experience with them. Uranus is more disruptive, more sudden. So it's like during this 5 months, a sudden event could happen. And that sudden event doesn't have to be horrible. It could just be a sudden event that infuses Uranian energy into your purpose. You could be activated, okay? Uranus is the activator. You could be activated to move toward your purpose during this time. This transit happens once in a lifetime. It's only going to happen once. So enjoy this beautiful shift, this beautiful transition into something hopefully more aligned to you. You may find that your path in life changes drastically at this time. You could also find that your path in life is infused with Uranus type things like electricity, working online, like nerves, the nervous system, astrology. Uranus also rules sudden things. Anything sudden is ruled by Uranus. Anything evolved, so evolved science or technology. This can spiritually be like channeling, but if it is channeling with Uranus, it's the sudden download. This is like mad scientist energy. You could get a good idea at this time. So again, you could just be activated to move toward your purpose. You could feel that sense of freedom, that desire for freedom that Uranus inspires. Something could happen outside of you that changes things, or you might just say, enough's enough, I don't want this anymore. I want this new direction, and go do it. You may also become more Uranian during this transit, which means more different, more unique. Do something that's more individual. Do something that's a little bit more on the fringe of society, a little more on the leading edge, because Uranus rules misfits and weirdos and people who don't fit in. So if you have Uranus conjunct your south node, this is also a once in a lifetime transit, and it's more likely to activate south node patterns. So this could be a time for some people where their south node patterns are activated, or perhaps a south node gift they didn't know they had could be activated at this time as well. Your attention can also be put here on the themes or the energies that your south node represents. Another thing that can happen is sudden changes that move you away from your purpose, that later you have to sort of find your way back. You could still be infused with these Uranian themes of the collective good, serving humanity. It wouldn't be the kind of thing that just moves you into your purpose magically. There's probably a little more challenge involved when Uranus conjuncts the south node, because we do associate the south node with challenge. Also, something in your life during this time could disappear that is represented by Uranus, like astrology or electricity, someone in your life who is a misfit or a weirdo or anything else that Uranus rules. So now moving on to Neptune. When Neptune conjuncts your north node, this is also a once in a lifetime transit. And it can bring confusion or it can bring magic. So Neptune is very magical. It can bring you to a place where you are more open. You can merge with other people better. You don't know where you end and they begin. This can be a very beautiful spiritual time, especially if you are on a spiritual path or you really believe in transcendence and connection and oneness. Can be a really, really beautiful time for healing gifts to be activated, for you to meet other spiritual people, and to have your life path really infused with that flowy, go with the flow, everything is one Neptunian energy. The challenges when Neptune conjuncts your north node are going to be things like not knowing what to do, not feeling clear. This is a time where it's very hard to get clarity. The best way to work with a Neptune transit is to just try to take that next step in front of you, to make a long-term plan and take concrete next steps. With Neptune on your north node might be very difficult because you really don't have all the information. Neptune kind of puts a fog over things. So during this time, you might really have to rely more on your intuition, and you have to watch out with Neptune transits that what you see from people is really what you're getting. You really have to watch your own projections, your own belief that everything is good or bad, because Neptune rules delusion. So what happens when we have strong Neptune transits is the thing we see in front of us, it's a little cloudy. Our ability to discern is slightly, it's a little bit muddled. It's not always perfect. So we have to really learn how to work with the Neptune transit by not believing everything we see, right? Making sure for the things that are more practical and grounded at this time, that we actually really look to see on the physical earth, is that next step there before we take that step? Okay, so that can show up as trusting new people we meet, really making sure they earn our trust before we just give it all away. Or even something as simple as not believing everything you see on TV. This transit in total, because Neptune moves so slow, can last up to 9 months. However, the times where Neptune is closer to your North Node, you're going to feel it more strongly. If you have Neptune conjunct the South Node, this is a once-in-a-lifetime transit, and it can last up to 9 months, but because Neptune goes retrograde and it moves very, very slowly, it's going to be in this spot for a long time. And you can tell when it's going to be more potent is when that conjunction becomes exact with your South Node. Neptune conjunct the South Node can make you feel confused. It can just bring confusion. The danger of a Neptune transit is you can dive headfirst into your South Node patterns and not even know you're doing it. So you just have to watch out during this transit that the things you are investing your time and energy into are going to further the agenda of your North Node, not your South Node. This is a time where South Node gifts can open up, especially related to healing. And it's also a time in life where some people can find something related to Neptune in your life leaves your life. This could be something like alcohol, because Neptune rules alcohol. It could be a certain kind of music or art, or escapism. So some people could technically get sober during this transit, as that need to escape is decreased or leaves their life. Another thing that could leave is someone in your life who is Neptunian. So that would be someone who maybe works with boats, is connected to the sea, doesn't have very clear boundaries, like they're very airy-fairy or very emotionally open. Someone in your life, that could be anyone in your life who's emotionally open, that is no longer present during the time of this transit. And remember, this can show up in many ways. And in some cases, Neptune also does rule disease. This does not mean everyone with this transit will get a disease, but that somehow sickness or disease in some way, that theme could show up in your life, or it could leave your life. With Neptune, there's really a sense of karma with people that you meet. You could have fated encounters with people that mirror themes and activities of your South Node, whatever that is. And if that's happening, it's going to be strong, and it's probably not going to be an easy experience, because with your South Node, it's not going to activate like the positive side of your North Node. It's going to activate the patterns that you came here to release. Therefore, it's likely that those patterns, when they show up, they're not usually pleasant. Usually they're ways that we sort of run ourselves into the ground. They're activities or energies or behaviors that don't work for us. So it's not uncommon during a Neptune conjunct South Node transit to feel like certain behaviors run their course in your life, and now it's time to heal from them. And last but not least, guys, Pluto. If you have Pluto conjunct your North Node, this is a 1-year transit, okay? So it's a long-term transit. It's not like you're gonna feel it every single day. It'll be stronger when Pluto gets closer to your North Node, and it's transforming you. Pluto transforms. The only way to work with a Pluto transit is to surrender. There is no other way. Whether it's conjunct your North Node or your South Node, if Pluto's conjunct your North Node, it might give you the ability to transform your path in front of you. It might transform you into someone who is on the path. And we don't know what has to be burned to the ground in your life for this to happen. Pluto is almost always connected to major endings in some area of life, and to know which area of life, you can look to the sign and house of your North Node. But when it's conjunct the North Node, it's like the endings are even more fated, or even more there to support you to have a new beginning. If Pluto's conjunct the South Node, all the same things apply of the North Node, that it's going to make you surrender. It's probably going to take something out of your life that had run its course. There's probably going to be a major ending of some kind. And I wish I could make this transit easier. I actually have this aspect in my natal chart. Pluto conjunct the South Node is powerlessness. It's when you want to have power and you don't. So if you have this transit in your life, my heart goes out to you. It's probably going to be a difficult time. It's probably going to be marked by loss, by surrender, things that you don't have the power to change. The only way to work with a Pluto transit is to surrender to it. You can look to the house and the sign of your natal chart to see what area of your life or what things might possibly be surrendered. But for these kind of transits, you know, Pluto with the nodes, these are going to be really, really, really life-changing transits that don't happen to everyone. The positive side of a Pluto transit to the nodes is that you have the potential to be reborn. I'm not going to act like this transit's going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. It almost would never be easy. Pluto transits are rough, no matter what Pluto's transiting, because Pluto just comes along and demolishes things and takes away things and destroys things, and you're left with the ashes going, now what? You know, sometimes you have to refigure out who you even are after a Pluto transit because you are not the same person anymore. So if you're going through this, just know that it is a really tough transit, and it's the only way through it is to surrender and let it happen. So that is what I have, you guys, for transits to the nodes. Let me know in a comment below if this video made sense. I love hearing from you. You can also book a private reading using the link in the description box below, and I will see you all in the next video.